Can everyone hear us okay? You guys good? All right, well, my name is Chris Didier, and I'm Zach's dad, and Laura, Zach's mom. And we're very grateful for the opportunity to be here. We've been doing a lot of advocacy work the last year, 1 month and 27 days. Some may already know this story, may have seen it on the news, but for those who don't, we tragically lost our 17-year-old son, Zach, unexpectedly, and we wanted to talk to you about that. He died from fentanyl poisoning on December 27, 2020. So before I go into Zach, did you want to say anything first?
Okay. Hi everybody, I'm Laura Didier, Zach's mom, and we're just really grateful for all of you to be here, for the principals and superintendent and everybody to support our efforts to get this information out. This was something that blindsided our family, it blindsided our school, our neighborhood. Tragically, Zach was kind of an earlier victim in this epidemic, so we didn't have this information that could have, saved his life. So that's why we're here to hopefully, share this information that will keep your family safe from what we've been through. So do you want me to talk a little about, or do you want to talk about something?
Yeah, Okay, as Laura already said, we feel like we've been hit by a Mack truck going 100 miles an hour. We never saw coming because Zach was a kid that was a remarkable child. He was successful on every platform, every event, every activity he was doing. He was truly running on all 8 cylinders. He's straight A student in all of his classes. He had all the AP classes he was doing well in. He almost perfected the SAT score halfway through college or halfway through high school, getting 5s on his AP exams, which I guess is a really big accomplishment. I never took that when I was in high school. He was a respected and recognized multi-sport athlete in track and field, soccer. He was the lead in his high school musical called High School Musical, the movie that Zac Efron was in. Zach Didier played Zac Efron's role of Troy Bolton. And Zach was also very active in his community. He volunteered. He was in Boy Scouts, Troop 29, and was working towards his last rank of Eagle rank. He's always demonstrated a good judgment and responsibility, and he had no known drug use of any kind that I knew of. We talked to him multiple times, and I coached his soccer team for 6 years. I knew all his best friends, and I talked to them about it, and all their parents talked about it. We vacationed together as families, so we were all shocked. How does fentanyl get in our lives? How does fentanyl get involved in a healthy, fully functioning high school senior? And in our advocacy work, one of the biggest common problems we find is that there is a stigma that gets connected to our message when words such as fentanyl, drugs, overdose, opioids are spoken. People who don't understand a unique new challenge kind of compartmentalized to what they may have thought before. Oh, that's that drug problem. Not going to affect me, not my family, or not my kid. And I'm here to tell you, if a parent is thinking that, they are dead wrong. Because Zach, like so many other young adults, are great examples of being a good person, trying to do the right thing, and still get stuck or get caught. Zach is a victim of fraud, and the one word I can think of that makes this different is the word deception. So to illustrate, we're going to show you a video that Zach produced. Oh, sorry. Before that, here's Mom.
I just wanted to say, Zach also taught himself how to play piano, and he played every day. This was his favorite song to play. I bet a lot of you guys will recognize it when you hear the song, and that's our dog Jake. But he basically recorded this 2 months before he died, and we had never seen it before. He hadn't posted it anywhere, probably shared it with his girlfriend or something. So I actually found it on his phone after he died, before we gave the phone to the detective, and it's just been like this incredible treasure for us to have this, and I think it just really shows his personality, his playfulness, his talent. So here's a little clip from that.
You ready? Answer.
So who recognized that song? What song is that? What's that from? Charlie Brown Christmas. Christmas time is here. And he played that every day. And sometimes we're not able to do these events in person, so we do them Zoom from our house, and Jake's always at our feet. And when he listens to this, you get to hear Jake in stereo, because he howls along at the house, or he cries for his boy. So I think you can tell, that's not the kind of kid you think is gonna be dead 2 months later from drugs. So that's why, we wanna share our story so people understand about the conversations that we all need to be having with our kids these days that we didn't understand that we needed to have. We weren't aware of these dangers that ended up, taking his life. So what happened to Zach? Over the Christmas break, he had just submitted his applications to the UC schools. Everything seemed fine other than, the normal lockdown fatigue. It was his senior year of school, of high school. He wasn't getting to do all of the great fun stuff, he had been able to do before. But he seemed to be handling it well. He didn't indicate to us that he, wasn't dealing with anything beyond, the normal disappointment of that. But unbeknownst to us, through Snapchat, he connected with someone that was advertising pills. And he thought he was getting a Percocet pill from this person. And it was one Percocet pill. That was all he got. But it was not Percocet at all. It was a completely fake counterfeit pill that is made to mimic a Percocet pill. It looks exactly like a Percocet pill. It's stamped to look like the right pill. But unbeknownst to Zach, when he put that pill in his mouth, it contained a lethal amount of fentanyl, and it killed him within minutes at his desk in his bedroom. He did not have a chance against fentanyl. It puts you to sleep right away into such a deep, deep coma-like sleep that you're unaware that your body is shutting down. You can't get help for yourself. So he had no chance at all. When the first responders came, well, Chris found Zach first and tried to revive him. And our other son called 911, and there was no bringing him back. He'd been gone too long. So they started an investigation. We were very fortunate. In Placer County, they did, start it as an investigation right away. That doesn't always happen, but I think because he was a minor with no, history of any problems, just a really stellar young man, I think and in his own bedroom, they started investigating quickly. They searched the house and his room, and there were no drugs or any evidence as to why he would be gone. So they said, either maybe he had a heart attack or some kind of undiagnosed health problem, or we'll find fentanyl on the toxicology report. And it's like, what the hell is fentanyl, and how could my amazing kid, get a hold of enough of it to kill him? And that was basically when we started doing a deep dive into what this problem is. We talked to neighbors, we talked to friends. No one had heard of this problem. None of Zach's friends, they were as blindsided as we were by all of this. So these deaths, they're not overdose deaths. Zach did not overdose on Percocet. Zach was deceived into conceiving fentanyl. He did not know it was in that pill, and he was poisoned. And that's what we're seeing with these young fatalities. It's generally, these counterfeit pills that are made to look like a Percocet, a Xanax, an Adderall, recognizable pharmaceutical pills that kids, maybe they've seen a friend prescribe something, or maybe they've had a prescription for something and they think it's a known pharmaceutical pill. But unfortunately, it's not, and they're not. And the distinction to know is that it's not a Percocet that's laced with fentanyl. There's no Percocet in it at all. There's no Adderall.
Of these counterfeit pills that is being sold in the dark web, but now what's really popular in the last few years is social media. Apps like Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. Pretty much any social media platform that you can think of is being used as a way to advertise and provide products. Products such as cigarettes, vapes, edibles, alcohol, of course prescription pills, and then the heavy things that you traditionally think of like heroin, cocaine, meth, benzos. Anything under the sun that you can think of is now being marketed on social media. I learned two things the day I found Zach. One, there was this thing called a counterfeit prescription pill that was lethal, that the consumer unwittingly consumed, not realizing they were taking a poisonous pill. And the second thing is that social media is a grocery store. Just like if you use DoorDash or Grubhub, social media has a way to communicate between a drug dealer and a consumer. How they start and how they communicate is extremely easy, it's extremely efficient, and that is the big takeaways that we're having. You may have heard CDC reported in a recent 12-month history, over 100,000 deaths occurred in our country from overdoses, and about 64, almost 65,000 deaths were attributed to opioids, mostly fentanyl, which is about that many people. And sadly, experts think it's only going to be worse. This is just fentanyl.
So before we start this really quick, not long after we got confirmation of what killed Zach, we got connected to a family that had lost their 22-year-old son. He was just about to graduate from Santa Clara University. He also thought it was a Percocet pill. He'd been having back pain. He ordered up one Percocet pill and he died in his room waiting for a virtual job interview. So this is where this shirt comes from and our information here. They started a nonprofit called Song for Charlie. And I work with this organization. Their resources are tremendous. We've got a QR code on here. We've got brochures you guys can take. There's explainer videos. There's resource information. There's school programs, curriculum, teacher resource materials. Everything is free. It's all about this counterfeit pill problem and fentanyl poisoning. And so a couple of videos we're showing tonight come from that website.
So, what's a fentanyl? A fentanyl is a fake prescription pill that looks just like the real thing, except it contains fentanyl. Fentanyl is an extremely powerful opioid, which is mixed together with a bunch of other stuff, then pressed down into pills to look real. They can be disguised as almost anything, from Oxy to Percocet to Xanax or Vicodin. And the scary thing is, fentanyl shouldn't be anywhere near these pills. It's dangerous. We are talking about a drug that's 50 times stronger than heroin. And just a tiny amount, literally a couple grains of sand, can be the difference between taking a dud or taking something that'll straight up kill you. The worst part is, you can't even test a fentanyl. The only way to know if your drugs are legit is if they're prescribed by a doctor. If not, you're getting ripped off. That guy on Instagram or Snapchat who tells you they're legit, he's BSing you. They'll tell you they're real, even though they're not. There are literally hundreds of millions of these fentanyls out there, and they look just like the real thing. I mean, can you tell the difference between these two? What if I told you they're both fentanyls? How about these? Also fentanyls. Convincing, right?
So one thing we always want to make really clear, especially when we're talking to the young people, and it's so great to see so many young faces here, you guys. Thank you for coming out this evening to hear this message. That a really important thing to remember with these pills is they're not made in laboratories like, where they make Tylenol or they make, other things that you would get at Walgreens or CVS, where there is strict quality control. These pills are being made in clandestine labs. Often the cartels, they're doing this, south of the border, and they're whipping these batches up with no quality control. And if you can picture 2 to 3 grains of salt, that's how little fentanyl it takes to be lethal. So there's no margin of error. And if you're not using precision equipment to make these pills, you don't know how much fentanyl might be in each pill. So another thing to remember is no two fentanyls are alike. When they whip these mixtures up, fentanyl is a powder and it'll clump together. And we call this the chocolate chip cookie effect. So if you make cookies, some cookies have lots of chocolate chips and some cookies barely have any chocolate chips. That's how these pills are. So the fentanyl might get clumped up in one section, of your mixture, and then when it goes through the pill press, some of the pills might barely have any fentanyl, and others might have enough fentanyl to kill 10 people. So there's just no quality control at all, and so it's really like Russian roulette every time. Like, we know Zach had tried a pill, at least one other pill before the one that killed him. So obviously that one didn't have as much fentanyl in it, but you just don't know each time you take it. It is like Russian roulette. So this is what's different now and why it is so dangerous and deadly now. So as a lot of us grown-ups here, know, there's been this opioid crisis when, oxycodone came on the market and people were misusing it. It was getting diverted, and being there were pill mills and all this overprescribing was going on. And a lot was getting diverted, to the street market. And so if at that time someone got an Oxy or a Percocet or something, it was the pharmaceutical pill. It was diverted. It had been made in a legitimate lab, and it was, diverted to the street. But a good thing happened, and that was, they cracked down on all of that, right? And so now, you don't have the pill mills, you don't have all of that, which is a great thing. The problem is the cartels thought, hey, there's an untapped market here. There's all these people that want to try opioids, that are maybe already addicted to opioids. We can tap into that and make these counterfeit pills to serve that market. Of course, the consumers don't know, they don't know the difference. You can't tell by looking at these pills which one is a legitimate one or which one is not. So it used to be that in the street market, they were mostly real. Now, they're mostly fake. And in Sacramento County, the crime lab there estimates that about 98 to 99% of the pills that they confiscate are counterfeit pills. And they contain fentanyl. And then nationwide, the statistics on these pills.
Drug-induced between the ages of 15 and 19-year-olds. Sacramento County is above. There's obviously a very sharp rise in 2019, as well as California. California has an incredibly big growth rate, and that's very alarming compared to most other states. There's a few states like California that have a sharp rise. Definitely, we live in a hot spot state. That's Sacramento County. Here's Placer County. They're actually even worse than Sacramento. They're one of the big hotbeds. So those are surrounding counties to El Dorado. We wanted you to know this threat is around us. It's here. So this slide means a lot to me. I think this is a big slide to take away. What it shows is what's called the growth rate of the last 5 years that was reported. CDC hasn't reported 2021 numbers. So from 2015 to 2020, this is a growth rate of the age groups between under 13 and over 30. And the different age groups, I was broken up here, in white has a fairly uniform growth rate of about 6 times. So in other words, if you were like in your late 20s, like that column, that dashed line there is 6 times. There's been about a 6-time growth rate for a person in their late 20s between 2015 and 2020. But as you can see, what we highlight here is between the 14 and 17-year-olds is significantly bigger. And this is the big concern. The growth rate is over 14 times, 2 to 3 times greater than all these other age demographics. Why is that? Why are these young adults so affected, so impacted? Well, what we think, there are 2 main influencers. The first one is this. These cell phones were not around when I was in middle school or high school, but our young adults, our young kids have had that for much of their lives. It's helped them adapt and overcome their challenges. It's helped them with their math homework problems. It's helped them learn how to play a musical instrument on their own. It's helped them climb the social ladder of social acceptance within their friend group. So it's become a trusted and reliable resource for them. They even put, studies have shown that they place higher value of resources than what they could get from a teacher or a coach. The second thing are actual legitimate prescription pills. Pills that are legitimately administered by a doctor and dispensed at a pharmacy are far more common now than when I was in middle school or in high school. Back then, it was grandma and grandpa that might have prescriptions for, heart or arthritis or other things. But now many teens today have had a legitimate prescription given to them by their doctor to help them manage anxiety because they're struggling with ADHD, or pain management because they need teeth extracted for preparing for braces. So they're used to, well, I've already had prescriptions. My mom and dad has had prescriptions, grandma and grandpa, cousins, friends at school. So it's very common. And they think, well, that's a safe place if I'm gonna need to self-medicate. So when you combine legitimate prescriptions giving an appearance of a safe path And the cell phones giving them an avenue on getting this on their own can create a potential hazard situation.
Let's get this straight. 20-year-old girl's home from college, stressed about school, relationships, her future. She's tired of feeling alone and she's looking for some relief. She's heard about pills and those popular songs that she listens to, and she always wonders if something like that might ease her pain. On the inside, she's desperate for help, but she doesn't want to worry her parents asking for it. A quick Google search says that Xanax is the best one for anxiety. She knows it's available through social media, so she gets on there and connects with a guy nearby who says he has what she needs. Within the hour, he pulls up outside her house and drops off a couple pills. That was easy. He seemed like a decent guy, so she goes upstairs and opens up that little baggie, pulls out one of the pills, and that little white bar says Xanax. She splits it in half to be safe, pops that half of a pill into her mouth, and a moment of relief turns into suffocation. She dies within minutes. Her family finds her dead in her bedroom the next day. Investigators process the scene as another accidental overdose. They look over to her parents who raised her all her life and say, "I'm sorry, your daughter shouldn't have been using drugs. She died of a drug overdose." You see, the dealer illegally purchased those counterfeit pills from an illegal website. He illegally possessed those pills, not knowing where they truly came from. He wrongfully claimed that those were actual Xanax pills, knowing very well that that might be a lie, because he's not a pharmacist. And then he illegally distributed those counterfeit pills to her for a profit of about $15. That girl made one mistake. She bought what she thought were a couple of harmless Xanax pills, and to her surprise, ended up losing her life to half of one of those pills that contained enough fentanyl to kill 3 grown adults. Her family lost a daughter, a sister, devastated for the remainder of their lives. So the dealer roams free, ready for his next delivery. Does that sound like justice to you? Or will you wait till he shows up to the house of someone that you love? Really think about it.
So as I mentioned earlier, we were fortunate in Zach's case. They did take it seriously as a crime because in Placer they were starting to see this big uptick, as you saw from the other slide, in these deaths in Placer County. So they did take it seriously. There are DAs around the state that are really cracking down. You guys may have heard about the recent fatality in Lodi. She was only 14 and died from a fake pill. So there is a lot more response, from our local police and sheriffs and DAs about really taking a look at this as a different problem, because this is a new category of victim. So this is something we always like to talk about with our young audiences when we are, at the schools in person or virtually, that, you can lead a healthy life, through the choices that you make, through eating well, through exercise, through having healthy relationships and friendships. And that can, take you on a healthy path through life. But if you start making some questionable or bad choices, it might start you down an unhealthy or dangerous path. You might start experimenting with drugs or alcohol. And, hopefully it just would end there, but if not, you might become a recreational or an occasional user of drugs or alcohol. That could turn into a habitual user, and it could really, be a detriment to your life. You might even become addicted, and after this long progression of time, you might succumb to an accidental drug overdose. But in that progression, parents like us, we would probably see those warning signs, right? I mean, that's like all the time, you look, like, have my child's, friends changed? Have their grades dropped? Are they, having changes in behavior that would indicate to you that they're diverging from that healthy path? And there would be opportunities to intervene, for them to modify behavior and get back on that healthy path. But this is what's changed now with fentanyl. And it's this dynamic. It's what killed Zach. The one pill can kill. You may not get that progression that we're all used to looking for as parents. That may not happen anymore. You may not get red flags. That initial dipping your toes into that water of experimentation can end your life because fentanyl is so incredibly lethal. So it really is just like a minefield. It's not a slippery slope anymore. It can be a minefield out there, and we just want to make sure that kids understand that this is what has changed. And while it's good that our law enforcement people and our district attorneys are taking this issue more seriously and really investigating these things, it doesn't bring our babies back. And so as the laws catch up and as investigations catch up, that takes time. And so that's why, when we found out and determined what happened to Zach, we said, well, as a lot of that's getting sorted out, we just want to get in front of families and tell you guys to have these conversations. We know if Zach had understood what was going on in this changing landscape and we'd had an opportunity to talk with him about this, don't ever take a pill that anyone's trying to sell you or give you, that he would have made a different choice and he would still be here with us today.
This question comes up a lot, and Doug and others have asked to talk about this. This is starting to become more common news about fentanyl and vape devices and fentanyl and marijuana and edibles. And we actually just heard, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, a big an awareness presentation by the Drug Enforcement Agency about this. It was one of the questions they asked. It's something that they haven't seen a significant rise of fentanyl and vape devices yet, but they have seen it. They think part of it could be inadvertent contamination if someone's making a fake pill or putting together edibles or whatnot. They may have inadvertently had traces of fentanyl get into marijuana, but they emphasize it absolutely could be a product of the future. It's going to probably be more pervasive because fentanyl is very addictive. It has a very tight therapeutic window, and if a person gets a taste of it and get the taste of that addiction, they're going to come back for more. So they're going to try any way they can. In September of 2019, the DEA San Diego division found their first, what they knew was their first case of a fentanyl in a vape device. 2 roommates, one did die from vaping, and the other roommate who survived admitted that they had fentanyl, and they're charged, I guess there's a little cartridge, thank you, had fentanyl in it. And so that was the first case, and they submitted that bulletin. Here's a couple recent studies. In November of 2021, so not too long ago, in Madisonville, Tennessee, a vape device was found in a high school. 3 people at school had to be treated for symptoms of an overdose. They survived, but the 17-year-old who claimed that he had it, he was arrested, and I don't know what's going on with him, but there's an investigation. And then not too long after, in early December, in Connecticut, a vape device was found, and several students got sick, and the 2 that were interviewed didn't know that there was fentanyl in it. They just thought they were just bombing a hit off of their friend's vape device. So it's definitely a potential threat, and it's out there. So this slide is all this is showing is the involvement of various types of drugs for deaths over all the ages. This was 2015. So the bottom row are the ages from 1 to 80, and the different sections of that chart show the type of drug involvement. And if you see kind of on the left side around a 22-year-old, it says heroin was in over 40% of deaths that involve drugs. There's prescription drugs, mostly like over 40. There's benzos, cocaine. You can see the presence of fentanyl. That was in 2015. Things have changed. 2020, this is what's happening. This is what's been reported by CDC, and they believe 2021 is going to be much worse. Clearly, fentanyl is pervasive. It's everywhere. It's involved in so many things. And what I'd like to point out is around the 17 to mid-20s, fentanyl is almost 80% of all drug deaths. So when CDC says 100,000+ people died in a 12-month period, fentanyl is a big part of it. And as you can see here, fentanyl changes everything. This is a very important, you guys need to know this. This is important.
So, what can we do about fentanyls? The problem is, they're everywhere. And they're here to stay. The authorities can't fix it or make them go away. And even worse, there's no way to test them. But there is a solution. If you don't know where your pills are coming from, don't take them. If someone on Instagram tells you they're selling legit oxy, don't believe them. If it's not coming from a doctor, it's not legit. It's as simple as that. Now, that's not to say that we don't all have real problems. Stress, anxiety, pain, they are real, but they can't be solved with fake pills. The best case scenario is you getting ripped off and taking a dud that doesn't do anything. The worst case, you'll be getting poisoned with a lethal dose. The best way we can deal with this is awareness. We need to talk about it and tell everyone we know. The more people who know about fentanyl pills, the safer we're all gonna be. You know, it's a bit like how most people hadn't heard of roofies until we started talking about them. But now we protect our drinks in case they get spiked. It's the same kind of thing. People need to know fentanyl pills are out there and that they can kill you. So, now it's up to us to let people know.
So basically, that's why we're here, is to share our story in the hopes that other families can be spared this pain, that we can all talk about it, that we can start dismantling the stigma around drug deaths. You know, we debated about going public. Zach was so beloved, and you know, you have to have those talks like, is this how we want him to be remembered? We want him to be remembered for the way that he lived, because he lived such a great life. But we knew at the end of the day that Zach would want us to tell his story, to warn other kids, that he would be looking at us and saying, if you guys know this information, you keep my friends safe. Tell them what they need to know to stay safe. And so that's why we're here. So we just, you know, encourage people to learn more about what's going on. Like I said, Song for Charlie, this site here, songforcharlie.org, has great resources. You know, if you want to just really dive into this, you know, get even more information, there's great resources there. And just spread the word and talk about it. The thing with fentanyl is it's a synthetic drug, which basically means you don't need plants anymore. You don't need crops, you don't need land, you don't need seasons, you don't need irrigation. All you need are chemicals and a place to put them together. And so the supply is endless. It's endless, and that's why when you hear on the news that we're just being flooded with this, that there's no end in sight for this. So our best line of defense is to understand what's going on so that we can know what the dangers are. So we want to spread the word, we want to talk to each other, we want to make sure that our kids understand, you know, where the resources are, and families understand, you know, so talk to your principals, talk to the school counselors. If you have any questions about what resources are available for your young person, so they know where to go if they're struggling. We have resource cards up here. Please, when we're done, come up and take whatever you want. We have wristbands, guys, for the kids, especially if you want to take one. A Song for Charlie. It says no random pills. wristbands, so that you just can stay, on that healthy path. And the other thing we always want our kids to know is that if you're ever in a situation with a friend and it looks like they're falling asleep and you can't wake them up, call 911 immediately. The only way to protect your friend is for them to get immediate medical attention, because this happens so fast. And we have good Samaritan laws, and what that means is you won't get in trouble. You'll be a hero for saving your friend. If you see someone, that looks like they're in trouble, please call 911 right away and get help for your friend. So I think we're gonna pass it back over to, sure. And then these are the other two websites I'll let Chris talk about.
So we volunteer for multiple different nonprofits. These are the two that we do a lot of work with. We highly recommend reaching out to them or us. Void is Victims of Illicit Drugs, and they have, I really like these are resource cards, and on the back there's phone numbers and a QR code and information about getting help, whether it's mental health or someone's overdosing or emergencies. And then one of the instructional videos is the content artist Dan Tierno. He was one of our videos. He did a 20-minute segment. There's a QR code on this. I highly recommend that as well. So either one is going to work. I've got two things to say. I want to tell something to the parents, and I want to tell something to the young adults in the audience. First of all, by the way, thank you for coming here. It means a lot to see the desire to understand and to learn, and I hope we can connect it. To you parents, we've seen people think, well, my kids won't do that. Please try to understand and just think about what happened and what is happening. Putting control apps and tracking apps that's great, that's fine, but there's some pros and cons to that. If you didn't know this, just like a person can go to youtube.com and learn to play a song on the piano, it also teaches them how to spoof GPS tracking, or how to get around NetNanny or Bark or whatnot. Kind of like that high school kid, if they want to get out and go to a party with their friends, they sneak out at 2 in the morning. If they really want it, they're going to do it. And if they don't have a phone, their friends have a phone. So we have found, and always felt, that one of the best things is to tell your kids, look guys, I've learned some serious stuff tonight, and I'm worried. And it's a dangerous world out there, and I don't want you to get hurt. So help me understand what you're doing and what you're exposed to, because your feelings matter, and this is a safe place for you. So talk to me, and if you just let them think about that, I think they tend to have an above board conversation about what's really going on. And for those youngers in this audience, I hope I'm not sounding like Charlie Brown's teacher and doing that but what you guys are doing in middle school and high school is so much more challenging than when I was your age. And I remember thinking I was invincible, and look what I've done and how I've survived. But I'm telling you, you don't know everything yet, but you are loved and you are truly our future. You've demonstrated that. Zach demonstrated that. Your whole generation has demonstrated. You are our country's future, our future innovation, our future progress. And you need to know. You're smart enough to make your own decisions. So here's facts. There's deception here. Just watch out. There's a trap. We don't want you to fall in it. That's all we're doing. We're just letting you know what the dangers are. So with that said, I don't know if you have anything else, but thank you very much for the time.